In this video, we're talking about books that have dropped so much in price, they might just be worth holding on to. And the big nuance to this is, of course, sometimes life situation happens and you need to move on from your comics and you need to sell them. And so there's definitely nuance in like having to sell or needing to sell, but a very interesting list of books here today and some interesting points of conversation about values of comic books sprinkled throughout this video. So stay tuned for that. And with that said, I hope that you never do come into a situation in your life where you need to move on from your collection. But if you do, it's nice to know your options. I am always buying comic book collections at fair market at fair prices. We've got it dialed into a well-oiled machine at this point. You get your quote fast, you get your money fast, and it's working really well. So if that is you, feel free to reach out to me. Contact info down below. We also do a monthly giveaway here on the YouTube channel. If you subscribe, comment, and like, you're entered to win a free slab. And if you head over to brycecomics.com, you get first access to new collections when they come through if you sign up for that newsletter. We also do a monthly giveaway for the newsletter on the website. Follow me on Whatnot, link in the description for $15 towards your first purchase on Whatnot. So with that said, let's hop into the computer and take a look at this list. Starting out the list here, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 4, the first full appearance of Silk, a Korean-American girl who was bitten by the same radioactive spider as Peter Parker. Let's see if Marcus can find that panel that I am just absolutely in love with. I wish I could get this panel for the first appearance of Silk as a cover. Humberto Ramos putting in some awesome artwork for this one. I can't believe that this was allowed. Anyways, this book is on a downward trend, as is almost everything in the comic book market, but I think that this character definitely has some legs. And when you see prices flirting with $100, under the $200 mark, under the $175, $125, I mean, at that point, you really start to question and go, how much is this book? What is the future of this book? I think, it could be a $300 book all day because it's not rare. And that is the big catch with this one is there's a lot of copies of it, but it's not just about the rarity. You have to couple it with the popularity of the character. And this is a very popular character, will continue to be a very popular character. And I can see this being a $300 book all day. So at that point, why sell it for $100? Maybe $175 if you have to move on from it. And that is kind of the big caveat to all of this is sometimes life circumstances, you have to sell stuff and maybe it is just time to move on. And at $175, I mean, it's not like you're going to take a huge loss on this anyway. So there's nuance to buying or selling, but I think this one would be worth holding, especially if we really start to consistently flirt with that $100 mark. Next on the list, we have Ultimate Fallout number 4, second print. This is the first appearance of Miles Morales. Some really interesting things going on with this book that I want to talk about here. The second print depicts Miles without the mask. The first print, his face is kind of obscured here. And this book has just absolutely crashed. We had a low sale of $86, which has to be, that has to be a low from, I can't even, let's see, the last time we saw 86 was in, 2020. Probably more like 2019 to have consistent numbers around that 86. So a very, very, low price for this, even I think at 110, 120. At 110, 120, it's like, that's when I start to question, what's the point of even selling? If we look at the 90-day average, it is $159. So this is a book that I might just, I think with the average, 90-day average being $159, I think I can justify having it on my site for $149. Because the thing is, this book comes in almost every single collection. Almost every single collection has this. I'm not just going to sit there and hoard them unless we know the consistent value starts to be around $100. Then I might start hoarding it. But I think with the 90-day average being $159, I can still justify having it on the site for $150. I hate having stuff on the site that is, not justifiable. If you're not willing to sell it at today's price, then don't list it for sale. You have to price things based on today's prices. Otherwise, don't list them. We also have some first prints. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is brycecomics.com, by the way. Use code COLLECT10 for 10% off. The first print is not as rare as the second print. And the second print is way more rare than the first print. If we go and look at the CGC census, the first print now has a total of 18,000 1,000 copies on the CGC census, and it's going up. That number is going up. There was like 90,000 copies of this or something printed, and there's 18,000 of them so far that have made it onto the census. This will go up. And if you look at the Pekeli second print, has 36. That's the other variant. But the one we're talking about here is the regular second print, which has a total of 5,831 total copies on the census. Way, 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 way more rare than the first print. And yet, it's not worth as much. If we go down, and it's just a very interesting thing that happens with subsequent prints. It's like sometimes a subsequent print is worth more than the first print, and other times it's not. And I think sometimes what happens is it has to do with just preference of the cover. And I think that sometimes people are a little turned off with a second print that is not unique at all. Like this one is just has this very minor difference where you can see his full face. Other times they'll put like a different color bar down at the bottom and call it a second print. And then you have other times when there is a significant difference in the color schemes, and that sometimes can have a huge impact on the value of the subsequent print. For example, we have Star Wars Darth Vader #3, the first appearance of Dr. Aphra, which, by the way, when we look at the numbers, I could have put this as one of the books on the list. This would have been number 6 for this video. As something that might just be worth holding on to. First appearance of Dr. Aphra and the droids 000 and BT1. And if you look at the subsequent prints, though, they went with an actual different color scheme, which is also another quick little thing, but sometimes that makes a big difference. The second print is red, the third print is green, and the fourth print is purple. And this fourth print, I think, resonates with people a lot more than even the first print. I think people like the purple background better than the first print background. If we look at the sales for this book, the first print is going for about $140 in a 9.8, which, yeah, I definitely, look at all the red on it. I definitely could have put this on the list as a book that might just be worth holding on to. The second print is not worth as much as the first. That was the red background. The green print is a little bit more valuable than the first print, and if we go and look, that could be due to like a significant difference in scarcity. And if we look over here, yes, it is significantly more rare. See, like the second print had 34,000 copies ordered, the third print 6,000 copies, and the fourth print, it doesn't say here, but I would assume that the fourth print is even less than the first print. If we look at the last sale of the fourth print, the purple, $700 last sale, $551 for the 90-day average. So in this situation, I think it's a combination of being exceptionally more rare, and maybe that's what's going on here with Ultimate Fallout, is like the second print isn't like drastically more rare. Yes, it's more rare, but if it's not like drastically, maybe that's when it really starts to make a difference on the value, and then also the color scheme. Now, if they would have done completely different art for this and had like Miles like swinging, from a building or something, I could see the second print being worth more than the first print in this situation, but it's not what we have here. The second print will never be worth more than the first print for Ultimate Fallout 4, and it just is what it is, but some interesting stuff to look at for subsequent prints. Next on the list, we have Young Avengers #1, the first full appearance of Kate Bishop, which obviously is not doing any favors for this book. But this is a book that's starting to flirt with numbers where I start to think, like, why even sell it? If we're flirting with $175 for this, and you can see the last sale it came in was $288, but when we're getting down to that $175, that might be a point where if you don't have to move on from it, maybe just go ahead and hold it, because I see this being, at least a $300 book. But this book reaching a peak of $1,595, which is absurd. It had no business being that high, right? That was just the perfect storm of Disney Plus being released and COVID, and this will never happen again. It should never be a $1,500 book, but, I could see it being a $300 book. Now, there is a caveat with this, and that is that Kate Bishop did no favors for this book when she made it to the MCU. And these other characters, when they make it into, the more mainstream MCU, I don't think they're going to do any favors for this book either. At least not with comic book collectors spending money on CGC graded copies of this book. If history has taught me anything, it's that woke culture does not resonate well with comic book collectors between the ages of 35 and 50. And that is just a personal opinion and a completely different conversation, but that's who's watching this video, and that's what we're talking about is prices for this book. So, take it with a grain of salt on this one. If you need to move on, maybe you just need to move on. Now, this book, Captain Marvel number 17, second print, oh my, how the mighty have fallen. The first cover and second cameo appearance of Miss Marvel in costume. So this book reached a peak of $7,700 during that exact same perfect storm comic book boom, and the most recent sale was $400, a drop in 95%, drop in value of 95%. I do not think that $400 is the new price for this book. I think that was anomalous low. In fact, I think if you see this book and can purchase it for $400, I think that that would actually be a good purchase at that price. This book, even before the comic market boom and the hype of the character and everything, was consistently, as you can see right here, it shows the average price here. Even in 2016, it was hitting the average prices of $600, $700, $800 because of the importance of the book being the first cover appearance. People love that. People love good second print art. This is the actually unique art that features the character. So it checked all the boxes to have the second print be worth more in this situation. But I think at this price, and I've even bought a couple copies of this recently. It came through in collections, and I even said to the collectors, like, hey, you might want to just pull that one out. I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to, hold that one back, because I can only, buy it based off of current prices, and they're just crazy low for this book right now because I'm going to list it based on current prices. So I totally understand if you want to just take it out. But, if you, I will buy this book. I'm just going to pay, current prices, which are absolutely dismal. I think this one is definitely worth holding if you don't have to move on from it. And I couldn't do this video, I couldn't make this list without Eternals number 1. This is, another book that just saw this crazy spike, reached prices that never deserved to be at, a peak sale of $3,800. And turning in a low sale here, most recent sale, $365, which is the lowest it's been in 4 years. And I do think that this is the new price for this book. I do think that $365 was not an anomaly low. I think it's still trending down. And, this book could get back into that high $200 mark. I could easily see that happening. The one big question on this one is the Eternals going to get a sequel, Eternals number 2? And I'm not super up to date on everything MCU related, but I know that they originally planned for there to be an Eternals 2. They set the movie up to have an Eternals 2. They even set it up. There was rumors about there being Disney Plus series, a prequel series for each character. And, I don't know what Marvel has planned here, but as a business owner, I know that sometimes when something doesn't work out, you can save yourself a lot of money by just scrapping it. And I could definitely see them just scrapping, any big production stuff for Eternals 2 because it just was not received well. So, if they did do an Eternals 2 movie, maybe we see a small bounce back in this. If maybe by some huge miracle they can turn the franchise around, but I think all of that is very unlikely. So I think, if you're in this book and you can move on from it, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to move on from Eternals number 1 at this point. So what do you guys think? I hear Mickey from Swaggle House Comics' voice ringing in my head that comic books are going to zero, a little sarcastic quip that he uses sometimes about, the reaction to comic book prices dropping. But, as we saw with Miss Marvel 17 or Captain Marvel 17 second print, 95% drop. That's pretty darn close to zero. Do you guys think it's going to zero? What is your sentiment on the comic book market and these books in particular? Do you think they're worth holding on to, or do you think they're all going to continue to crash? Do you think it's ever going to come back? I'm curious to know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget we have that monthly giveaway here on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, comment, and like, and you're entered to win free comics. If they go to zero, that's also free, but Here's a chance to get one for $0 right now. All you have to do is subscribe to that newsletter at brycecomics.com. You're entered to win a free slab over there as well and get fair prices on comics, because I know that we all still love this hobby and love to collect. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for sticking with me to the end of the video. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye. And action. All right. A well-rested Bry is a better Bry. What? Okay, here we go. Got some good sleep last night.